Hey, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver, and I'm here with my partner in crime, co host, and sister Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello, hey everybody.
How's it going?
Good, really good. I'm tired of fog. We've had like this weird fog, freezing fog for the last 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
That makes everything so slick you can barely walk outside, and it's like an entire ice coating over your car, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm really good. You inspired me yesterday, and I got a new tablet because
Yeah.
I needed some new tech. It was time for some better tech for specifically case research.
Me too.
And,
Yep.
you know, I don't know about you guys, but when I get a new piece of technology, I'm like a kid in a candy store for a while. I love it. I play with it constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm such a techie. So I've been having a lot of fun with it, frankly.
Nice. Me too. Yeah, for the same reason. I am tired of packing my big laptop around
Yeah.
or constantly staring at my little phone screen to read articles and do research. And I finally went, this is so dumb. Why don't I buy a tablet?
Yeah.
And we were in Boise this weekend to pick up our car. Our car's all fixed from the
Yay.
accident. Yep. And we have two dogs that are our kids'. So they're our fur grandbabies, and one of them got neutered on Friday, and his mama had to work all weekend, so she asked us to come and stay with him because she felt bad about him having to be home alone. And he ran around like his hair was on fire all weekend. I don't think he knows he got neutered, but he
He
acts.
did look rather precious in his cone, I will say.
Oh my gosh, we had to put the cone on him finally because he did start doing some licking and acting itchy. And
Mhm.
oh yeah, it was hysterical because he's a little Shih Tzu, and his whole body's been shaved down except for his head and face. And so then you put the cone on him, and he's got all this hair up in the cone and this little skinny body. Oh my god, hilarious! Yeah, poor kid. Yeah, but at any rate,
They're good grandparents.
yeah. So while we were down there, I said, you know what, I really want to buy a new tablet. Started doing a little research, found what I wanted. I am always difficult like this. I don't know why, but the thing I found that I wanted.
I don't think I'll ever go car shopping with you again. I'm just
Oh
saying.
god, the dress shopping. Ugh, yeah. When
Yeah.
our mom died, we went to 11 stores in one day for me to find a dress for her funeral, and I still came home empty-handed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Partly because I just didn't really want to be doing what we were doing, and
Right.
partly because God, I couldn't pick anything. I thought Kristi and Scott were both going to kill me, but
Well, it did get a little extreme, but
I
it
think
was
I
okay.
finally found something like the night before the funeral, and it was just not even something I liked or wanted. It was just like, you just have to have something now,
Yeah.
You can't really go in yoga pants, so here you
There
go.
you go.
But anyway, so I found the thing I wanted in the whole Boise Valley. It was at Fred Meyer. There's like 6 Fred Meyers, and one store had 1. That was it.
Of course.
And so, and it was a ways away from where we were, but it didn't matter. We ran over there and they had it and I bought it and I got exactly what I wanted. So actually that's kind of cool. So
Well, it's good when you get exactly what you want.
yeah, for sure. So I'm thrilled and me too. I've been using it for case research and putting stuff together and ideas and I'm thrilled. So,
Yeah.
and so that's we're on to our team case today. So every week
Yes.
we do one case, we each do a cold read case that we present to each other, and then we do one team case. And
And this is not a psychic read because we got a real snitty comment about it last week. We do
yeah,
some cases that we don't read. So,
yeah,
pay
yeah.
attention. That's all I'm saying.
And this is one of them. This is
Mhm.
just a presentation of a very interesting case that we thought was kind of wild. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, what is it? Like the last couple of weeks, we've the comments. My God,
Yeah.
you know,
I
you can
mean,
tell what the collective is feeling
99% of
like.
them are wonderful. And then there's
Oh yeah,
1% that you're like,
you gotta go.
kick you in the
Yeah.
dick for that, like, what the hell? Just
Well,
move along if you don't like us. Just see you later.
you can tell what the collective's mood is by
Mhm.
comments because and it is true, and it's not that we have to have piles of praise. I don't need that, but yeah, just the rude, we're totally misunderstood, when people go after us because they think we said or did something and they're totally wrong, but
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
I think just this January has been a hard month. And
Yeah.
you can tell because people are pissed
Yeah.
sometimes about the wrong stuff, but
Yeah.
they're pissed.
They're in a bad mood. We get it. We do get it.
Yep,
But,
we do.
maybe, I don't know, be nice, whatever.
Yeah,
Or
if
don't.
you
I
can.
mean, life will go on. But anyway, well, let's take a look at this case. You guys, I love these old cases because it's such a neat peek into how things were then versus how things are now, right?
Right.
But the first thing that we have to get out of the way about this case is that it is about a man whose name is Francis Drescher. Does that sound familiar to anyone? That's correct. Fran
This
Drescher.
killed me because trying to do some research and get some more background, all I can find is freaking Fran Drescher, the actress. No matter what I put in, I just constantly brought her up.
Yep, me too.
It's like she's the only Francis Drescher that's ever mattered in the whole world.
Apparently. Well, this Francis Drescher was a very different. He was no nanny.
No, he was not. He killed a nanny, but he
did
was
kill
no
a nanny. Yeah.
his own nanny, actually. So
Yeah. So this was in Owen County, Indiana. And in this county, for a while, there had been an issue with people being poisoned by strychnine. And what they had finally figured out is that they were receiving sample medication in the mail and taking it and dying.
Mhm.
So, that sounds very shocking to us because would you ever just take some random medication that showed up in the
I'd
mail
be
that
on the
you
phone to
didn't
the
order?
FBI in 10 seconds if I got medication in the mail. But
And it
I just
was quinine. It was quinine.
yeah.
People were receiving these sample meds in the mail and dying. And this had been going on for quite a while, like upwards of 10 years.
Yeah.
And
And somehow people were still getting the quinine in the mail and taking it. You can
yeah.
tell the internet did not exist then because clearly the information was not getting disseminated to the
Mhm.
populace because they were still taking the
Yes.
freaking quinine samples.
Yes. Now, we did discover that this is something that was actually pretty common at the time. This was before the FDA, of course, and this is how some companies got their medication out into the mainstream, is by sending out samples. That is something that happened. It wasn't a rarity. It was a common thing.
Yeah. So, of course,
But
people were not too suspicious when they received this in the mail. Although, quite a bit of the meds that did get mailed out in about this time period were actually, poisonous and killed people.
there have been
It
other
wasn't a safe
cases.
thing at all.
Mhm. Well, right. Yeah. Sometimes they were just accidentally poisonous because,
Mhm.
they were trying to come up with a good med that wasn't, or people had an allergic reaction to it, or, took it with
'Cause
another
there was no
medication or whatever.
regulation at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they might send stuff out that had morphine in it or heroin, because
Mhm.
Bayer,
And
the aspirin
cocaine.
company, is actually who developed heroin.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, or cocaine. Like
Mhm.
you look at it now and we're all like shocked, but this
Mhm.
actually it wasn't that unusual. I still think I probably would have been terrified to take medication like that just reading these stories, but
Yeah.
again, no internet, so maybe people just didn't know.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
I would think likely they didn't.
But even then, what became big pharma was then little pharma that, there was a lot of money in. And
Yeah,
so this development of medications and getting customers was turning into booming business.
right. Yeah. And they would do things like look up the birth announcements in the paper and then send medication for babies
Yes.
out to new mothers.
Mhm.
Sadly,
Yeah.
some of that medication killed babies because, again, no regulation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This was a dangerous time to be alive. I'm just saying. I
For
mean,
sure.
so is now, but like this is, we have a lot of stuff in place to protect us from things like this that did not exist then.
We do. And in fact, in the late 1800s, there was another person named Roland Molyneux
Yeah.
who was charged and convicted of killing two people by sending out anonymous medication.
Yeah.
He labeled the bottle Emerson's Bromo Seltzer, and it was cyanide.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yikes.
He killed two of his enemies that way. So
Yeah.
this this apparently was a thing at the time and, also was sending out the meds. So, with all
Yeah.
of that being understood, our, uh, our villain in this story was the county coroner as well as the Undertaker.
Anyone see a conflict of interest here? Because I was immediately like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
think that should ever be the same guy, but it was.
So, yes. So the belief was that he was killing people so that he could make his coroner job relevant in coming and pronouncing them, and then earning money off of their families by being the Undertaker.
Yeah, cats. And he
Now,
killed, what, around 20 people
yeah,
ish? I mean, they don't
now
100% know.
they don't really know. What they do know is that not all of the people that he killed were necessarily just for profit, because he started then killing people that he had beef with.
Yeah.
So he killed a political rival, and he was trying to become the county recorder. And there was someone who, running against him. He sent them the poison stuff. They took it. They didn't die. That's the other thing. Lots of people took his stuff and became extremely ill that didn't die.
Yeah. He
So,
wasn't the best chemist. It seemed like
mhm,
dosing wise, some of them got a lot bigger dose than others.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So, yes, he did kill their nanny. Now, we're not sure if he killed the nanny on purpose. That one might have been an accidental death. It's possible that she ingested some of his stuff, because he did poison some people by putting cyanide in their sugar bowls.
Yeah.
And so it could be that that was an accidental death. But his wife says that she had been out of town, came home, the nanny was doing laundry, and collapsed on the floor with convulsions and foaming at the mouth, and was clutching a pair of his pants in her hands and died. And they determined that she died from poisoning. So there was a doctor that had spoken to Frances and about her death, and he let the doctor know, well, she was often sad, so they decided must have been a suicide.
They
Though,
decided that in a bunch of these cases,
mhm,
even
they,
though they had, yeah. Ugh.
yeah, even though other things happened initially, a lot of these they had decided that. Now, I keep saying cyanide. This is actually strychnine.
It's strychnine. Yeah,
It was
the other case was
the other
cyanide. This
case was cyanide. Yep, yep,
strychnine poisoning is horribly painful. I can't imagine that people would want to kill themselves with strychnine. This is not going to be a fast death at all. It's an
yeah,
awful death.
right. So after this doctor had, visited with the coroner whose nanny died, named Maud, and he told her that, he told the doctor that she was a sad person, and they figured that she killed herself. And he actually fell for it, decided not to do an autopsy, said later that he felt like that was a huge failure on his part. Within a couple of days, his whole family fell horrifically ill with strychnine poisoning, and they tracked it back to their sugar bowl.
Yeah.
So he tried to kill his whole family
Yeah.
because he was acting a little suspicious.
Well, and got into their house or mailed some free sugar
They're
samples?
not
Like,
sure how it got
how
there.
did he get
Yeah,
the sugar to them? Yeah.
yeah,
Did you also get free sugar samples in the mail? That one I don't know.
right. Yeah, yep. So there was then another man, a local man named Frank Mason. He was ill and placed in the care of the local Oddfellows Lodge. And Francis was the coroner, of course, and he also helped care for this man. And when he fell violently ill, Dr. Gray was called again to the scene, and Frank said to him, "I'm poisoned, Doc. Quick, get it out of me." He didn't get the poison out, however, he died. And they searched his room and found a small amount of poison, strychnine. on a paper in the room. And again, Francis, forever our hero, determined as the coroner that it was indeed suicide.
Mm-hmm. And he called a lot of them heart failure. They were mostly heart failure.
Yes.
If it wasn't suicide, then it was a natural death of heart failure, even though their symptoms didn't match it at all.
Yep. Yep. Then later that year, a young girl named Alice, I think we saw her newspaper clipping, Alice McHenry fell violently ill at the dinner table. Her grandmother said she'd been suffering from headaches, and so she had come home from school with a headache, and Grandma gave her a quinine tablet that had come in the mail. Within 30 minutes of ingesting the tablet, Alice was having convulsions and died.
Yeah.
So a doctor pronounced her dead, and then Francis showed up a little later and determined that she died from a cerebral hemorrhage. Why? We don't know. That's just what
Foaming
he
at the
said.
mouth has all the symptoms of this. Here's the thing. This was all happening in the same county.
Yeah.
Because he's the county coroner. Like, I don't know. I'm very confused about why the word was not spread somewhere to like, hey, if you get some quinine in the mail, definitely do not take it. But clearly it didn't.
Yep.
Because Francis was conveniently misnaming their causes of death.
Yeah. In 1913, a traveling salesman named D.H. Johnson was in town. He walked into a local hardware store, threw his arms in the air, and started crying out for help before he dropped to the floor in convulsions. Luckily, guess who was nearby? Francis, to take the body and determined that the man had died of heart failure.
He's the most efficient coroner / Undertaker I've ever heard of.
I mean, he is there on the scene before they die. Yeah.
That didn't seem suspicious at all, right?
No. Then a lady by the name of Mrs. Strauss. Her husband died in a bizarre, sudden way in 1914. After her husband's funeral, that was conducted by the one and only Francis, he asked her if she lived alone, which he thought was kind of a strange question, but she confirmed that she did. Shortly thereafter, she received a sample of quinine in the mail, which she took. And she fell unconscious, but she did wake up. She didn't die. She gave the medication to authorities, who confirmed indeed it was poison. But nobody's put two and two together yet. Francis is still on the move.
He's just booming business.
In June of 1914, Thomas Cairns was found dead in his home by his son. His son said he was in excellent health, had no previous heart problems. However, Francis said he died of mitral insufficiency. It's interesting how he keeps making these claims when he really doesn't have the medical training to do so, but he's just still gets away with it.
No, he's just the county coroner. And we know with rural counties like ours, that the county coroners are frequently not medical professionals.
He's just also saying stuff.
He is. And then he'd take them back and start embalming them real fast. And so they wouldn't end up getting autopsies because he was so efficient. He'd get the embalming done before they could come take the body.
Yeah.
If it was suspicious. And yet again, still, he's just booming business there.
Yeah. He's just raking it in. Eleanor Baldwin was found dead by her husband when he returned home from a short trip. She was determined to have died from organic heart failure. We're getting very fancy now, despite the family physician saying she had no heart problems. But there you go. Jacob Harris was found dead by his daughter. In March of 1914. She discovered him sitting up in a chair with white foam seeping out of his mouth. She claimed he had no heartbeat. Once again, Francis shows up on the scene and says heart failure. And the list goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Raymond Lynn. Yeah. John Rivers, James Goss, Jacob Goshorn, George Scott. They all died unexpectedly. Healthy people by the same manner of convulsions, foaming at the mouth, and they were all written off as heart failure by our one and only Francis Drescher.
Yeah.
So they finally started looking at him. They finally decided that maybe something was up. A man came
You
to
think?
town who was a post office inspector. He came with the intention of questioning Francis about the poison by mail plot. They had, at that point already, the authorities had searched his home. So, the locals are now whispering about it. They're now starting to think that he is the person that is culpable for these crimes. Now we have like federal authorities in town, and his wife has been out of town. When she came back,
Smart woman. I bet she also doesn't take quinine.
I'm guessing she doesn't. I can't think that his wife didn't know. There's
She
weird
had
stuff
to have
with his
something.
wife,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
She was gone a lot.
she was gone a lot. So one afternoon, he sends his 2 children to the movies, leaves a note that says, now the note is so weird.
It is.
It says that he has eaten a radish and his heart is broken. At least that's what the newspaper said. There's actually a little change here. But that's what the newspaper says, that he said, that his note said, that he's eaten a radish and his heart is broken, and he leaves instructions on how his body is to be cared for. So she comes home from wherever she's been, and he is dead. And she swears this was heart failure, though the official cause of death from the whatever coroner came to see him listed it as suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, after his death, 3 more people come up with strychnine poisoning, because he sent all this shit out and it kept coming.
Yeah.
So now how people continue to take quinine that came in the mail after all of this, I don't really know, but they did. Yeah. So that's what happened. There is an article in the Herald Democrat, the Hoosier State Chronicle newspaper, on the 11th of June, 1915, laying out the details of the case. Basically, they were quite sure that he did, in fact, kill himself, and they were quite sure that he did do all of this. They actually removed his stomach and sent it off to another place to have it inspected, because they wanted to be sure that he really did die of strychnine poisoning, and it was actually inconclusive. But
Yeah. But there was some thinking he may have injected it rather than
yeah,
ingested it.
they do think he may have injected it.
He did
So,
have a little in his blood.
yep. So at the end of the day, he was basically just tried, by public opinion, and people absolutely did believe that this is what happened. That he was the culprit. After the 3 people that had strychnine poisoning after he died, there was no more. It stopped happening, which again really made people think it really was him. Yeah. So that's what happened. Kristi, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Not really. Just that it really shows us how much different life is now,
Yeah.
and how much things have changed, and how much government regulations
Mm-hmm.
have changed. Obviously, if someone sent you medication in the mail now, you would be dialing 911 on, very quickly, and you would most definitely not be taking any sample meds that came to you in the mail. Also, this idea that he was the coroner and the Undertaker, like that would never fly now.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Mm-mm.
so I would imagine that cases like his changed things a lot and actually brought about positive changes in regulation that to protect us from things like this being able to even happen at all.
Yeah.
Because it is a scary thought to think that that was actually possible and that he got away with it and killed as many people as he did. And we don't even know for sure how many people he killed.
Yeah, right, because this went on for at least 9 years that they are tracking. It could have
Yeah.
been longer, and of
Yeah.
course, there could have been many more people than they realized just based on the way they died, and yeah, it's
Right.
so crazy.
It is. It's wild. But, if you ever wonder why there's so much regulation, this is why, of medication. Also, though, this kind of brings to light, as we know, pharmaceutical companies have done a lot of shady things to
Mhm.
make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And even back in, the 1910s, they were doing shady stuff, like
Mhm.
mailing samples to people who just had a baby of medication that may or may not have been safe for that child,
Was
mailing out stuff
needed for
that
that child. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
It does for me kinda highlight that when you look at the fact that people weren't that surprised that medication was coming for free in the mail that hadn't been prescribed by a doctor, you didn't know for sure what it was.
Yeah.
Did you actually even need to take it? Those questions
Mhm.
were not answered, and yeah, I mean, I find pharmaceutical companies to be pretty sketchy now. We all know that there's stuff that goes
Yeah.
on there, but boy, I didn't realize that it had started back this far.
Yep.
It's a little like all of the commercials on TV here in the US for
Oh,
medication.
yeah.
That's totally illegal everywhere else, but of course
Mhm.
here it's not. And they always end those commercials by ask your doctor today. You're
Yeah.
just gonna go in and ask your doctor about some random medication you saw on TV. Like, that's
Mhm.
what
And
the
I'll bet people
hell?
do. I would love to
They
I
do.
can ask my doctor this question now. I'll bet people do constantly. Or like, "Do you think I
Mhm.
need Cialis?" No, you definitely don't, you
First of all,
know?
that's for men. Secondly, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I bet they do.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Doctor Google is bad enough for all of us, but then this kind of pushing of medication, it's
Mhm.
scary. It's really scary. And so they've just found
Mhm.
another way to do it. They can't send it to you in the mail, so now they put it on media everywhere so that we all
Mhm.
see it and know the names of these medications, whether they have anything to do with our personal health or not. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
sketchy.
Well, we learned a couple of years ago about, how much pharmaceutical companies will roll out their red carpet. Kristi and I went to,
Boy, did we.
wow. We went to an immunity conference, and we went
Mhm.
to it because, we both have immunity issues, and we went to this immunity conference, and we were already going to town for a bridal shower, and it just kinda dovetailed nicely to go to both events, and
Yeah,
it was not expensive at all to go and stay in this really nice hotel, like, there was an amazing package deal, they fed you fantastic food, but
yeah.
the thing that really blew our minds is that the hallway in front of the event center was absolutely loaded with
Excuse
vendors
me?
from
Yeah.
pharmaceutical companies absolutely chomping at the bit to talk to us, get us on their email list, and fill our arms with free gifts. We came
Oh
home
my
with so
hell,
much stuff from that thing, it was just embarrassing.
it was insane.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water bottles and chapstick and T-shirts and hand sanitizer and bags and
Teddy
pens and
bears and
oh, yeah, teddy bears and yeah, like, we got these really nice, like, steel water bottles, like, not cheap
oh,
ones.
yeah.
It was like they spared no expense at all.
Oh, hand warmers and ice packs and oh god, I could go on for an hour. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
crazy, but every booth you walk past, they're like, "Oh, girls, come over here. Let me give you all of this," you know?
Yeah. And they
Yeah.
were the companies that produce the plasma that I get
Mhm.
infused every
Yeah.
week. And so they were all the different plasma infusion, pharmaceutical producers,
Yeah.
wanting you to take their version. It's all the
Mhm.
same thing. They just,
Mhm.
they all treat it a little bit differently, but
Sure.
it's basically all exactly the same thing, but there are
Yeah.
several companies that compete for it, for your business.
Mhm.
It was bizarre.
It was crazy. We were so uncomfortable.
I know, it was just the pressure was crazy.
It was well, just watching other people who obviously, like, go to this conference every year. They might as well have had shopping carts the way they were
Mhm.
loading up
They're just
with all
cleaning
the
up, yeah.
free stuff.
And we're like, "Can I have one of those?" And they're like, "Well, of course, here, take one of everything," and
Mhm. "Here, let me just dump my
so
whole basket into your bag." Yeah.
yeah. We'd never been to anything like this, we had no idea. It was really, really bizarre.
It was very strange. Yeah. We haven't been back. It was
No,
too much for us.
it didn't feel I mean, the speakers and stuff, the information was good, but it felt
Mhm.
like it was so much the main purpose was to advertise these pharmaceutical companies to you
Uh-huh.
that it was just like, "I don't
Yeah.
no, I'm good."
Very
I
strange.
think my doctor and I will decide which brand of plasma I'm gonna get, like, I
Yeah. It was weird. But, I mean, really, I mean, that is the face of pharmacy or pharmaceuticals, you know?
it
And,
is, and
not to
this
completely malign pharmaceuticals, there's definitely a huge place for them in our world. But, yeah, the way they are marketed to us and pushed on us obviously has been gross from the get-go. I mean, back
Obviously,
in 1915, this was still back where they were, like, traveling out of a wagon and showing up at carnivals and, street fairs and things and hawking their goods. It was
yeah.
that kind of an era.
And you really had no way of knowing what was in it. Was it safe?
Yeah.
What was the dose? Just that
Mhm.
information was not out there.
Yeah.
So it certainly made it possible for Francis Drescher to get away with what he did for so long.
Mhm. Yep, without a doubt, and probably so many others. He just happened to
Oh, yeah.
finally most get caught. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes, he did.
All right. Well, there you have it. So we'll be back tomorrow with our last case for the week. And if you didn't catch our first case this week, our first case this week was our second case in our series this year, focusing on murdered and missing Indigenous women. And you definitely want to take a look at that case. It came out of Montana, a very important case to give some
Yeah,
attention to
Selena
and a signal
Andre,
boost to. Yep. But we'll
definitely.
be back tomorrow with our last case for the week. The other thing, you guys, we want you to know is that we are moving the times of our live streams. So historically, our live streams are on Wednesday nights with case updates and Thursday nights with the psychic hour. And we've been doing them at 8 p.m. Mountain. We are permanently changing those shows to 7 p.m. Mountain starting this week. So if you come at 8, you're going to miss us. So make sure that if you'd like to come to the live stream, put that on your calendar. That's going to be a permanent change. We're listening to you, East Coast folks who were keeping up too late at night. we're, we're moving an hour earlier to make it better for everybody.
Definitely.
Yep. All righty. Well, we will be back. This has been True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Take care.
Bye, guys.